We stand against totalitarianism, particularly imperialist expansionist totalitarianism. We are for democracy and human rights, and we are for a worldwide prosperity that only free economies can give, and the pursuit of human happiness that only political freedom allows.
Welcome to the Andrea Schaefer Show. Today I have David Cross from Georgia. He's been working on election integrity for at least 5 years, going on 6 now since the 2020 election. David is a successful Georgia businessman and financial expert. He's the founder of U.S. Assets Management, with decades of experience at firms like Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, and A.G. Edwards, after earning his finance degree from Auburn University. A lifelong Georgia resident, originally from Clarkston and now in Swawini. I pronounced it wrong. Swanee. He's been married to his college sweetheart for over 30 years and is the proud father of 2 grown children. David is deeply active in the Republican Party of Georgia, where he currently serves as the second vice chair of the Georgia GOP and has run multiple times for party office, including campaign for chairman. He's a passionate advocate for election integrity, tirelessly working to expose issues with Dominion voting machines, and a strong advocate for secure, transparent, and alternative election procedures in order to secure free and fair elections. That was easy for me to say. So welcome, David. I'm thrilled to have you today. I've been following you for over 5 years, and I watch your work. You're very diligent, very detailed, and we're really happy to have you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The only correction I have to that very long-winded bio is that I am no longer second vice chair. That term ran out back in June of last year, and that's I also ran for chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. And as luck would have it, the Republicans in Georgia managed to rig the election against a fellow Republican, and now the Republican Party in Georgia is actually falling apart and is nearly bankrupt. So. If I was there, it'd be a different story. But this is what happens when you have career politicians and people like that want to stay in power.
Wow. So as we talked earlier, I was excited to see President Trump at WEF at Davos speak today, and he did a wonderful speech, and within the speech he spoke about there will be imminent prosecutions for election allegations.
Right.
I can't say the word. I apologize. So I'm going to put that on now. And hold on just a second. Oops, it won't work.
Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. Can't have rigged elections. You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally a good press. I always say it. Strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections, and a fair media. The media is terrible. It's very crooked, it's very biased, terrible. But someday it'll straighten out because it's losing all credibility. Think of it, when I went in a landslide, a giant landslide, won all 7 swing states, won the popular.
So that was President Trump today at Davos, WEF. I'm not sure how well it was received around the world, but it was received from many of us here in the States. What are your comments on that, David, since you've been working on this for 5 years, going on 6 years now?
I'm excited for President Trump, telling folks what's going to be coming, prosecutions and arrests and things like that. I'm looking forward to that. I listened to more of that speech where he was talking about, Greenland. He was talking about the issues that we're dealing with. He was upset. I mean, he was angry when he was up there. And so while the people in the room, were ignoring him and probably, being disrespectful, people like me and people like you were here in the U.S. cheering and clapping for the man. who's standing up for us.
Amen. He's been standing up for us since 2000. He went down that golden elevator, and I don't blame him for being angry. So today we're going to start covering the work that you have done within Georgia in regards to the election malfeasance, we'll call it. I want to do a disclaimer here today for YouTube. The censorship, mom, whatever you got, gremlins out on YouTube. This is a disclaimer. These are allegations. These are strong allegations. They have not been proven in court yet, but they are very convincing as far as the malfeasance that have been going on in Georgia. So the next video that I'm going to pull up, and David, I'm sure you'll be happy to speak about this, is the video where ANF News verifies David's posts highlighting Dominion machine vulnerabilities, hackable software, hard-coded passwords, obsolete OS, Fulton County's unverifiable process, missing ballot images, double scans, unsigned tapes for 350,000 ballot votes, and officials' failure, Kemp selecting machines, et cetera, and we'll go into that today. So I'm going to pull up that video clip right now.
Go ahead.
Fulton County made a stunning admission about the 2020 election. After almost 5 years of assuring voters all procedures were followed, it turns out that may not be entirely true. Now they face some steep fines from the state elections board. Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon is live tonight at the state capitol, where this all came out earlier this month. Doug.
Yeah, good evening, Blair. And those fines could crest $1 million if the state elections board gets exactly what they're asking for. Fulton County essentially admitted that there were unsigned tabulator tapes. Those are those pieces of paper akin to receipts that come out of the voting tabulation machines that help them verify how many people voted and to make sure that it actually matches the number of votes that were cast. Those are unsigned, and that violates state law. The board also admitted that they were missing some documents tied to 2020.
That was gratifying for you, I'm sure, when that came out.
It's interesting. The story is really taking off. What's interesting about those news reporters, they got the story right. So 318,000 votes were certified using tabulator tapes that were not signed. And I'm not asking to go back and rehash and redo 2020. It's ancient history. What I'm saying is, and part of this complaint is about the fact that Fulton County is a habitual offender of election processes and election code. And a lot of the detractors that are out there and a lot of the haters will say, well, it's just a procedural error on this, or they just didn't follow this little rule over here. And as I said before, we're at a point right now where if you were watching your favorite football team and you're in the fourth quarter and they got like 13 personal fouls, you would scratch your head and go, maybe we need to change out the coach. Maybe we need to change the process. Maybe we need to change out the team. And that's where we are right now. Fulton County has got so many transgressions that they literally just, it feels like they're so incredibly disrespectful. They didn't even show up to the state election board meeting today in Winder, Georgia. Their election superintendent, Nadine Williams, did not show up. She sent a lawyer up there who was not informed, who was not prepared, and he basically got up there and shrugged his shoulders.
Wow. So the next image that I'm going to bring up, if you want to talk about it, is, here we go, image 2. This is the Georgia Democrats. I got that from your ex post. As far as if you would like to explain this one, this would be really amazing.
So the Georgia Democrats have got a plan to take over the state legislature by 2030, and it's a project that's called project2030.org. You can look it up. And so the Democrats in Georgia are just sick to death of the fact that Republicans have been in charge for this long, and it looks like they're willing to do just about anything. The reason my name is on here is because I sign up for the other side stuff. If they're going to send me their intel for free and not check into who I am, I'll take it. So that's why I posted this thing, was just to let people know kind of what the other side is doing.
Interesting, interesting. So the next image I'm going to show. Oops, I hit the wrong one. I apologize. We will get that away there. The next image I'm going to show is we're talking about the machine still
Yeah.
for the audience.
Okay.
And the other thing that I saw on your feed is the hackability of the machines. So if you want to talk about that a little bit too, we were talking about that offline a little bit. I'm going to add that to the stage.
Okay.
So here we have this posted. We judge that Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea can execute a variety of disruptive cyber attacks, including data corruption, distributed denial of service, and even data modifications on some election infrastructure. What do you have to say about this as far as the hackability, and what have you seen in Georgia that could create that potential?
Okay, so here's the thing that everybody needs to know, and this is a fact, regardless of whether Google and YouTube like this. The fact is that the software in Georgia on the Dominion machines is hard coded with a hard coded password. So if you happen to know somebody's username, the password is DVS Corp 08 exclamation point, and it's wide open. It's out there. People can get in. What's even worse about this is that we're using the equivalent of Windows 7 that has been obsolete, I believe, since 2008 or 2010. So we're working on obsolete system. We're working on hackable systems. And the other thing that people need to understand is that widespread election fraud is not something that I believe in, okay? Widespread election fraud would be way too easy to find. What we have is very targeted election issues and targeted election manipulation that happens in the US. It could be a municipal race, it could be for a state Senate seat, it could be for a state House seat. It's basically anybody who's willing to risk time, talent, and energy and money in order to try and do this. It could be a Republican, it could be a Democrat, it could be a foreign actor, it could be anybody who really wants to influence the outcome of what's going to happen. And a lot of times it all comes down to money. Somebody's money is involved here, or some type of payoff, on the backside is the kind of payoff that they're looking for.
So my understanding too, and this is kind of like off subject, but I saw this in one of the Halderman report, and Garland Favorito talked about this as far as the ability, the hackability, and able to change votes. Whether that happened or not, I don't know, but the machines are vulnerable. So that's the point that we wanted to put up here.
Yeah, we know for a fact the machines are vulnerable. There's no way to tell if anything has actually happened because nobody in Georgia has seen the actual paper ballots. I mean, no independent third parties have been able to look at the ballots and compare them against the ballot images. And even in Fulton County in 2020, what a lot of people don't understand is that Fulton County wiped out all of the ballot images from all of the original ballot images from election day and early voting. So again, Fulton County cannot put up their hand and say, we did everything by the book and we can certify, because you should be able to take the digital records that the counties have got and compare that to the reported result. And you should be able to run through like a mock election using those digital assets and come up with the same result. We can't do that. We've got issues.
Where is that lawsuit right now?
It's my understanding is that it's
paper ballots.
It's still in a holding pattern right now. The last thing I heard is that Fulton County has said, okay, we'll give you the ballots, but it's going to cost you $470,000 in order to get your hands on them. So they keep putting up these walls. I personally don't believe that the ballots still exist. I could be wrong, but I think
Is there a funding mechanism that's out there right now trying to get the money so the ballots can be retrieved?
That amount of money, I don't know. I think the better strategy for Garland, and I think what he's pursuing, is suing them to be able to get access without the cost. So hopefully that's going to happen. we'll see.
Okay, great. Well, now we're getting into the poll procedures. The next image that I'm going to put up is, well, you'll see. Hold on a second. I keep on hitting the wrong one. I apologize. Plus news. There we go. This is a scanner recap sheet from 2020.
Yep.
So if you want to explain this a little bit further.
Yeah, so a scanner recap sheet, what you're supposed to do with this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so with a scanner recap sheet, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to record that the scanner that you're working on has a zero tape. The zero tape was printed out, and how many ballots had been counted on that machine in the past. Then you're supposed to have an end of day poll tape that you print out. You're supposed to put that on here. You're supposed to account for every bit of the movement of the information along the way. And Fulton County has got scanner recap sheets that we believe were either falsified or they're incomplete. Again, Fulton County is not following procedure. And what they try to come back and tell us is, oh, we had to hire a bunch of people at the last second and we couldn't find enough people to work in the elections. And that's not really true. In 2022 and 2024, Fulton County in 2022 continued to use a company called Happy Feet as an outsourced provider.
And who is affiliated with that?
That was so Stacey Abrams, I believe, owns a piece of that. Some other Democrat heavyweights are involved in that. But the whole point is that they are providing their own manpower, and what they'll do in 2022, it was really kind of sneaky. Fulton County put out like a want ad and said, hey, we're looking for poll workers, and you could register to become a poll worker. And then they took the advertisement down, or they took the website down after 3 days and said, we've filled all the positions. What a miracle. Every other county that's out there, including Gwinnett County where I live, was just constantly looking for people up until the very end. I got a telephone call in 2020. Could you serve it as a poll manager? I said, they said, that's fine. We have training that starts tomorrow. And for the elections, it's on Tuesday. And I said, okay, sign me up. I'll do it. Fulton County just doesn't follow those rules. They say, nope, we're gonna fill the positions with our own people that we source from people that we like, and it's folks that they've either been educated on proper procedure, and that's one of the reasons why we see so many procedural fouls with Fulton County.
Wow. Next image I'm pulling up here is a memo from Mike, you pronounce it please, Pendergast? Pendergast. If you want to explain this memo to the audience.
Okay, so it says potential vote adjustment, miscellaneous concerns, and this is coming from Pendergast. It's going to Nadine Williams, who is now the superintendent of elections. She was not in 2020, and it also went to Richard Barron, who was the kingpin of running the Fulton County election in 2020. And basically what you're looking at here is Mike is saying, hey, Nadine, Dwight, who's another person he's referring to, Dwight said you might have already seen this, but Rick asked me to forward it. There's 2 attachments, just some quick adjustments and corrections. Please let me know if you have any questions about this. This is on November 19th. So this is, what is that? That's 16 days after the election. And
exactly.
What he's talking about is there have been duplicates that are on the sheets. What most people don't know also is that in Fulton County, I believe it took 6 days for the election, for the counting of the ballots to be completed. And even on the 19th, there were still some small minor adjustments are happening, but it just seems really strange that we have the quote fastest machines in the world, counting ballots, but
they can't get it right.
Yeah, they couldn't get it right. They don't get the same result, and the detractors out there and the haters are going to go, oh, it was really, really close. I say, you know what? If you're using machines, it should be exact. It ought to be just absolutely.
Well, didn't that happen in Arizona too? They had to do
Yeah,
recounts.
Arizona. I'm not the expert on Arizona, but Arizona had a lot of their own issues that were going on over there. They had some similar issues that were happening here, where we believe that official paper for the ballots was not used either in Arizona or in Fulton County. And what's really crazy is that the machines here have a detector that's on them that can detect, is this ballot legitimate, or did somebody make a copy of, like over at at FedEx Kinko's or whatever's on their copier, and print out like 100 ballots and jam them in there. These machines in Georgia have a special detector on there that can tell if it's using the proper ballot paper, and if it's not, it'll reject it. But in Georgia, we have that feature is deactivated. So, what can happen?
Funny. So I don't know. I believe it was in 2022 or 2023, early 2023. You know CanCon, right?
Yes.
Right. I started sending information to him in regards to state election board departments having, and whoever approves it in each state is different, right?
Right.
But having the ballots printed at and approved mom and pop printing places all over the country. I found a whole bunch in Texas. I was looking at New York. I don't remember if I looked at Georgia. So you're absolutely right. Are they getting a valid ballot that's been approved as far as from a printer with the right specs and everything, correct?
Yeah, we honestly don't know. And in Fulton County, just days before the election in 2020, there was an order for 1 million ballots.
Well, I think it's time to show
Ballots.
that.
Now, that probably does not alarm you until you understand that Fulton County had 520,000 people that voted total. So why would you need twice as many ballots? So
And didn't they not come with, they ordered a last minute order without envelopes?
yes. I mean, there's just, again, and the haters are going to go, it's a procedural error. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Here's the thing. I don't know what happened to those ballots. Nobody knows what happened to those ballots. Nobody knows if they were actually legitimate, if they were actually legitimate ballots that were pre-printed for elections, or for all we know, you could easily slip in some pre-printed ones and nobody would know the difference. So again, it's all about, the whole system is unverifiable. The thing that you cannot fool is if you have elections on election day and you count those ballots with human beings, hand marked, hand counted, or human counted, paper ballots, done it, you do it out in the open. All of our phones out there have got these high definition cameras on there. Record it, stream it. I don't care if you have all Democrats or all Martians counting my ballot. If it's on a high definition camera and I can go back and I can see the ballots being counted, I will believe it. So
Exactly.
but right now we don't have that. And even Elon Musk says he's a technologist, and he says we should be using human counted hand marked paper ballots.
So I think it's time to put that video up. Hold on.
Absolutely.
I used to be really, really active in promoting, Trump campaign 4 years ago, and I got burned out, and I'm so frustrated, and it's all because of the cheating. So what are we going to do with that?
Well, there is, I think, some amount of cheating that takes place. It's hard because they've, when you have mail-in ballots and no sort of proof of citizenship, it becomes almost impossible to prove cheating is the issue. So a lot of people on the Dem side will say there's no cheating, and I'm like, you've made it impossible to actually prove that there's cheating. But statistically, there are some very strange things that happen that are statistically incredibly unlikely. So there's always this sort of question of, like, say, the Dominion voting machines. It is weird that I think they're used in Philadelphia and in Maricopa County, but not in a lot of other places. Doesn't that seem like a heck of a coincidence?
There are no coincidences in politics.
No. That was last summer when he was campaigning for President Trump, if I remember correctly, correct?
Yes. And
Right.
in that later on in that clip, he says, "I'm a technologist, and I don't believe we should be using computers to to count ballots because it's too easy to hack."
Correct. So there was an image, and I wasn't quite sure what you were the point that you were trying to get across. But you're pointing to a ballot here, and I'm going to add it here. And what were you
Oh,
trying? Yes.
all right. So there's this know-it-all that's out there named Jovan Pulitzer, um, and he thinks that if you color in the circle, like you can see, I colored in Tim Eccles on there, and then I drew a line from the from the circle over to my candidate's name. I did that because there is software that exists out there that will draw a square around your little oval, and if it detects that it's a clean oval, it can swap what your oval looks like with the other candidate on there, and it does it in 20 milliseconds in the time that it takes to store the ballot image. So 20 milliseconds for any of the scientifically not inclined out there. If I took 1 second, if this space represents 1 second, and I divided it into 1,000 parts, it can do it in 20 little slices of that in 20 milliseconds. And so I'm pointing up there to my initials saying, hey, I've marked my ballot so that I can go back and find the image. So this is the actual ballot before I dropped it off. And then later I went back and found the ballot and proved that me marking my ballot this way did not send the ballot to adjudication. It didn't cause it to be miscounted. It didn't do anything. So it's a way of making sure, and you don't have to put your initials on your ballot. I did it so I could find it. The whole point of this is that if you're going to vote, I suggest doing it on a hand marked ballot like this. And when you fill in the oval, then draw a line over to your candidate so that you will trigger the machine to say, this ballot is too hard to manipulate. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Wow. That's interesting. Okay. We will let this. I think I covered all the media assets that I have. So
Okay.
given you were in a meeting today, would you like to discuss what transpired and what was discussed?
Sure. So I went up there today in support of my friend Joe Rossi, who is, I believe, from Haralson County. So he had a long drive to get over to Winder, Georgia. I think he was probably in the car for like 3 hours today. And Joe Rossi and Kevin Moncla are very good friends of mine. We've worked on a lot of different cases together. They have one particular case that I initially started out by doing a reconciliation of the hand count. And what we did was we went through and I looked at all the different entries that went in to a spreadsheet to calculate the votes for Trump, the votes for Biden, the votes for Jorgensen, and then I guess you call it like the votes that don't count, where you had like write-ins and that kind of thing. And what I discovered was that there were a lot of errors in that data that came from the Secretary of State's office. So every time we're dealing with data, we're always dealing with pure data that's coming directly either from the county or from the state. In this case, we're dealing with the state data. And what the state data showed us is that there were numerous examples where ballots or ballot batches had been duplicate counted, where the ballot batch did not match what the actual ballot images showed. So it was just showing you that there was this irreconcilable mess that Fulton County tried to perpetrate as, oh, we counted the ballots, and it didn't work out. So Joe Rossi reached out to me after I did this initial complaint, and he said, hey, what was your process? Where did you get the data? I showed him. He came back later and said, I found all the stuff you're talking about, and I even found a few more. So he and Kevin Moncla got together. They wrote up the complaint. They asked me at the time, they said, hey, do you want to have your name on it? And I said, I've got 3 others that I'm working on. Don't worry about me. You guys take care of it. And if I said, if I need to go and show up and help testify, I'll be happy to do it. So we work together as a really well-oiled team.
Right. Kevin is the one, there was the Dominion invoice that I showed from 2020. He's the one that disclosed that first, correct? Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
So Moncla, I mean, if you want to see the stuff that Kevin Moncla does, follow him on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, open a Twitter account. It's a really great place to be able to get alternative news, particularly from people like me or Kevin Moncla or some of these other folks that are working on these things. And I think his call sign is just the @ Kevin Moncla. You can find him on Twitter. The data that he puts out there. We learned a long time ago that you only publish things that are absolute bona fides, meaning that if you don't have the receipts for it and you can't prove it, don't put it out there, because the haters that are out there, they will rip you to shreds. And so we always want to make sure that we can sit down, show the data, and say, here's what we found, here's what it points to, and here's what we think the implication is.
So the one thing I didn't pull for media, but would like to discuss in a little bit, is the Supreme Court recently ruled and reduced the barrier of entry in regards to standing. And the Democrats are famous for saying Trump lost all the election integrity lawsuits in 2020. So I believe going forward, there's going to be a lot more room for litigation in regards to voting issues, election issues.
Yeah. So for anybody that's out there, when you hear people out there say, "Oh, Trump lost all these election challenges in court. It was proven." No, it wasn't. All right. I don't know of any cases that made it all the way through without being thrown out on something called standing. Standing is a legal term that says that if I file a complaint against, say, Fulton County or the Secretary of State's office, that and let's say I say that they miscounted votes, or they didn't follow procedures, and I think that they should have to pay a fine or be held accountable. Standing just says, well, David Cross, you didn't suffer a particularized injury that we can assign some type of economic value to. So because we can't do that, the case is thrown out. And that rule has changed now, and it is broader. It recognizes the fact that we're not going out there trying to get monetary damages. We're trying to make the system more secure. So I'm very happy to see what's happened, with the courts right now, and making it so that we can actually get these cases going forward.
To adjudicate the evidence. The evidence was never adjudicated. It was
The
thrown out on
evidence was
standing.
never seen. It never saw the light of day. So the things that I worked on, the things that Kevin worked on, the things that Mad Liberals worked on, that's Philip Davis. He's on Twitter too. You can look for Mad_Liberals. He's got a hilarious account. He's really wildly talented, but follow his stuff that's on there too. And all of the stuff that we've got out there, none of it has made it to a jury. Zero. And it's all because it's gotten thrown out on procedural things like standing and that kind of thing.
So I remember when I started looking into the 2020 election, each state has their own election codes. And after so many months, and it varies little by little, the state can get rid of the ballots. So where are we today? I mean, we can't go back and litigate 2020, but what do we do going forward?
Right. So the law says that ballots and election-related materials have to be held for 24 months. That's what the law says. For the ballots from 2020, we issued something called litigation hold orders, where those assets had to be preserved until the court said that they can be destroyed. Mm-hmm. So allegedly, Fulton County still has all their ballots. I personally don't believe they have them. I don't think that we're ever going to see them, even if we get money, court order, all that kind of stuff. I don't think we're going to see it all. But that's just my opinion. But
so going back to standing, I'm sorry for interrupting. Mm-hmm. Going back to standing, wasn't Georgia one of the first state Supreme Courts that ruled for the plaintiff, or not the plaintiff, the defendant, in regards to they reduced the standing for it? Was it for the ballots in Fulton County or another case?
Yeah, it was for the ballots in Fulton County. So it was There was an obscure case that was brought up. I think it was called the oh good grief. I want to say it was called the the Confederate Sons of America case or something
Yes.
like that. And essentially what happened was the Supreme Court in Georgia said, you know what, the VoterGA case where they want to see the ballots, that's very much like this other case, and we the Supreme Court of Georgia say that VoterGA has standing. So Garland's case is supposed to have standing. As soon as we got standing, we got that in December of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we are, December 2025, and later, and still nobody's seen the ballots. I mean, the people that are out there that are really trying to push things against us and against you, the voter, they're trying to run out the clock. They're trying to bore you to death with procedure so that you will just not pay attention. You'll move on with your life. Or in some cases, people will move to another state. They die. Different things happen. People move
Or
on.
you as the defendant gives up and just
Yeah.
doesn't pursue it any further.
Yeah, it's a really well-known strategy that the defense attorneys use, particularly in cases like rape and murder and things like that. Is they will just draw it out as long as they possibly can, and it's a horrible thing that happens. But our justice system sometimes moves at the speed of smell.
Right, right. So we're getting winding down here as far as time. So I'd like to give you the floor as far as what you want to discuss going forward in Georgia, specifically as far as what you want to see changed in the election code so we have freer and fairer elections going
Yeah.
forward, and
Oh,
whether or not what Trump is working on is going to help your case here in Georgia as far as making safer elections.
I truly hope so. So the Dominion system in Georgia was initially selected after a 9-day search, 9 days, that Brian Kemp, who was then Secretary of State, conducted to try and find a good system. The Dominion system in Georgia had never been used on the statewide election system. It had been used in provinces in Canada, which is why on the tabulator tapes we have references to Canadian law instead of Georgia law, which is another funny procedural error. But they had never been used on a statewide election, until they were used in Georgia. So I hold Brian Kemp, I personally hold him responsible for this. And then Raffensperger made it even worse because after the election, he put up his hand in front of Congress, swore to tell the truth about it, and said, "Oh, we had the most secure election, ever,
And
ever,
they went
ever."
all over the Sunday media,
Yep.
ABC, NBC, all of them,
Yeah.
to say it's
And,
safe, our procedures are correct, da da
yeah.
da.
And what we did was, I love the fact that all of his testimony was broadcast because we've caught him in over 22 lies where he's lying to Congress. And, in conversations with people that are connected with the Department of Justice, what I've heard is that, apparently some people get to lie to Congress and get
Mhm.
away with it.
Isn't that perjury?
And others don't. Yes, it is. And so Raffensperger is running for governor here in Georgia. He is not qualified to be governor, in my opinion, and he really needs to hang it up. And if God has His way with righting the universe, Raffensperger will be arrested by the Department of Justice for lying to Congress. That's what I'm hoping. So
He is one of your top picks as far as who might be under imminent prosecution.
yeah, there's a guy named Gabriel Sterling that was
Yes.
his underling at the Secretary of State's office, who is now running for Secretary of State. And it's kind of funny. I've had people that have asked me, and they said, why aren't you running for Secretary of State? And I said, because we're still using the same election system that I think is hackable and riggable and not secure. If we were doing human counted hand marked paper ballots, I would be all in. But right now that's not where we're at. So
That sounds to me like you don't trust the voting system, so why even run?
no, and all my job right now is to help people understand how can you vote securely, how can you make sure that your vote counts, and just really encourage people to be involved in the process and the system. go out, at your county and reach out to the county election board and put your hand up and say, I want to be a poll worker. It's a long day, I grant you, but you get paid for your time. You get a chance to see how the system works. You get a chance to see if it's really secure, and you'll have an opportunity to help keep things secure. I was a poll manager in Gwinnett County in 2022, and one of the first things I had to do when I went in to set things up is I had to turn on a Verizon MiFi, which is wireless, that connected to a laptop, and the laptop connected back to Central. And that laptop, this very fancy laptop, had one function. It had one little spreadsheet on it, and the spreadsheet was to mark down every couple of hours how many people had voted, how many people were standing in line, and what the average wait time was. And honestly, I could do that on my phone by calling in or texting and saying, hey, here's where we are. But no, we have the internet.
DoorDash has better tracking.
Yeah, and every single one of those Verizon MiFis, they all have the same password. So
Right.
the system's just not secure. So please don't give up. Be involved. Participate in the process. Help educate people. When you see material like this, share it with friends. If they say, I think you're nuts, I would encourage you, reach out to me, whether it's on Twitter or, look up my business, US Asset Management, send me an email. I'm very easy to find on the internet. I'm happy to help out. I'll share with you all the details. And if you want to take a look at some of the things we found over the years, go to a website that I created called gaballots.com. So it's Georgia Ballots, gaballots.com. We'll take you right there. It'll show you a lot of the things that Kevin and I worked on and what we found over the years. And it's just a laundry list of error after error after error in the system that shouldn't exist. And all those errors make our election system insecure.
So I'll put that link in the show notes when I do publish the full length interview here. Excuse me, I got an itch. So I want to ask you, what are the things that, if there's any other things that you want to see changed, whether it's in Georgia or Arizona or Michigan, across the United States, that would make our elections more secure?
I think to make our elections more secure, it's going to take activist participation. You have to go in, you have to be nice, you have to be, polite, don't go in there trying to disrupt things. Go in there trying to learn, participate in the process. What a lot of people don't understand is that, so I'm 56 years old. I'm a child of the 70s, all right? I'm one of 4 kids. When I was a kid, my mom had to work a job because my dad was a home builder. She had to work and help support his business. And in doing so, my parents gave up the time that they would have had for civic activity. That's what happened. There's a lot of folks that are out there like, yay, women's lib and that kind of thing. And it's wonderful because it gives people choice. But one of the reasons why that happened is because the inflation that happened in the 1970s necessitated it and made it so that moms that were out there, some of them had to go to work to help put food on the table. And in so doing, it really reduced the amount of civic involvement that we had. And at the time, I think a lot of people said, oh, listen, it's okay. The government's not out there to screw us, right? What I can tell you is that when we go back and we continue tracking elections and election manipulation, it goes all the way back to the early 1970s. Even back when we had those lever machines, those things were manipulated. So this has been going on for an awful long time. There's a guy named James Collier. You can look up a YouTube video by him that was done about him. And I think it's maybe like 2.5 hours long. He talks all about the old style way of manipulating elections. And he comes to the very same conclusion that we came to, which is the only way to do this is hand-marked, human-counted paper ballots with the media there to witness these things. That's the only way to do it. And believe it or not, civilized nations throughout the world, they count their ballots by hand with people, and that's the way that it's done in places like Japan, Thailand, France, Germany, the Netherlands. It's all done just that way. Banana republics use machines to count their ballots.
Correct, is in the continent of Africa, I guess it's widespread.
Yep.
You see riots all the time after an election.
Yep.
So I just, when you said hand count ballots, I wanted to put this image up for closing here. And any comments you want to make about 2020, explain what this image is. It's State Farm Arena and how the ballots were counted without anybody around.
Yeah, so this if you look at the timestamp on the top left up there, it says 5:22 in the morning on November 3rd. So that's election day. This is before anybody gets into that room. There's another video, or there's another camera angle of this same room that shows that there's water that's on the floor. So you can't see it. It's kind of, it would be in the foreground closer to us, but there's water that's on the floor. That was the burst pipe that happened, that they said happened like at 10:30 at night on election night.
So how big was the puddle of water?
It was a decent sized puddle of water. I mean, I saw it, and the cleanup team had to come in with something that looked like a little mini Zamboni machine, and they came in and, you know, and picked it all up. What's really curious though about this picture right now is the door that you're looking at in the center is a door that's on the back of the room. We could never get a video camera or images that showed what's on the opposite side of that door, because what we don't know is all the ballots in the back of the room and those black totes and all the ones that are in the boxes up against the wall. Nobody has any idea how they got in there. There's no chain of custody. There's no video. There's no telling how many of those are real, how many of those are fake, if any of them are fake. I mean, there's no way
Goes
to
back to that invoice that we showed earlier, maybe, huh?
Correct. So it's an unreconcilable mess. And one of the things that I said at the state election board meeting last month was that there should be an asterisk by the results of the Georgia 2020 election, in particular Fulton County, that just says, hey, listen, we had an election, we certified the result, but we can't stand by what we reported because so many election processes were bungled along the way.
Right. Okay. Well, this is an opportunity for you to say we weren't conspiracy theorists back in 2020. I mean, people lost family members. I mean, not death, obviously, but me being one of them. You know, my family disowned me because they thought I was cuckoo. I'm talking about
one of my cousins disowned me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll give you a great little story. So my dad was a home builder, as I don't know if I said that before. So was my uncle. All right, and after my dad passed away, I found out that that there was a company called Homeowners Warranty, that my dad used to offer homeowners warranties for the houses that he built, and he would pay a premium to the insurance company, and if there was some kind of issue, then they would work it out to figure out like how to cover the loss for the homeowner. Anyway, the company went out of business, I think like in 1991. They went into receivership. It's been in receivership for almost 30 years. And I got a notification because I was the executor for my dad's estate that there was this money that was out there. It's like, I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000. And we could claim it if I went through all these did all the paperwork. I reached out to my uncle and said, hey, Uncle Ray, you've got some money out there too. I could see it on the list. And he said, I'm not interested. And I said, what? What do you mean you're not interested? And he said, I'm just not interested. And so I called my cousin, and my cousin Keith said, I called him up and I said, hey, I don't know if your dad's okay or not, because my mom, had dementia and she had a brain tumor. I said, I don't know if your dad's okay or not, but I said, I just called him up and told him that I found like $6,000 for him, and he said he wasn't interested, like I was some kind of like telemarketer. And my cousin chewed me out and said, are you calling my dad, crazy or whatever? And I was like, I'm not calling anybody anything. I'm just saying there's money that's out there. You got to do a little bit of paperwork. And my cousin just read me the riot act and said, I can't believe that you're still searching for the ballots. And so that cousin wrote me off. I've got some other family members who wrote me off. But a really kind of cool story that happened is when all this is going on, I had a bunch of liberal clients that were with us, and I do investment management and financial planning. I had a bunch of liberal clients that they evacuated us or evacuated from us. They disappeared like a fart in the wind. They just vanished, okay? And I'll never forget, I even had a couple Republicans that left too because I was upsetting them with my social media post. One of my clients came in and he transferred out $4.6 million. It's a very, substantial relationship for us. He transferred it out. I went home that day and I was salty. I was upset. And I was like, maybe my mouth is getting me into too much trouble. My wife made us spaghetti that night, and over dinner, she did a prayer for us. And she said, Lord, it's always been said that you don't take something away without providing something else of equivalent benefit. And she said, and we could use that right about now. All right. And the very next day, I got a telephone call from a lady who said, I'm getting divorced. I need help with my investments. I've got $700,000. And oh, by the way, I have a friend. She's going to call you. She has $300,000 she needs help with too. I went home that day and I was like, wow, that's amazing. On the second day, we had the telephone call with the friend. She did in fact want to work with us. So we set things up for her. And on the third day, I had a gentleman contact me and he said, hey, I saw you on a podcast talking about the election. And he said, I need your help. My dad needs your help, and my deceased, brother's estate account. We need help for all three of these things. And I said, fantastic. What are we talking about? And he said, $4.6 million. So
Holy moly.
I lost 4.6 million. We got back 5.6 million.
And more, yeah.
Yeah, so we got back more. And what was absolutely wonderful is that all three of the new people that signed up with us, they're all what I would call in our tribe. They are people that believe in the work that we're doing, believe in the importance of it. They're very, they're there for us. And what's happened is it's really strengthened relationships in my business and my personal life. I thought I had some wonderful friends before. And what I learned is that I had some friends and had a lot of acquaintances. And now I've got people that are friends and advocates. And you couldn't ask for, a stronger way, to make your life better than top grading the people that you're working with and spending time with.
Amen. I moved to a different state so I could be around my community that's very supportive of me, and I'm very supportive of them.
Yep.
So, you just make choices in life sometimes. But the
Absolutely.
number one choice you make is to always live by the truth.
Yep.
And you saw malfeasance in Georgia, and I'm sure you weren't able to put your head down on the pillow at night and just be quiet. And
Yep.
that's not who I am either.
No. So can you go to my Twitter page? Is that possible?
I have. Why is that?
I was going to show you a video that I post on there.
I have a video of you.
It's not me. So it's when you pull up my Twitter account, I have a pinned message that's on there, and it has Superman, up there. And
Oh, I
it's
saw
one of my
that.
favorite things. I love that where Lois Lane
I
says, so why are you here? And he says, I'm here for truth, justice, and the American way.
Correct.
And she says, you're going to have every politician in America hating you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, God bless you, David, and for everybody that has worked with you, Kevin, Garland. I mean, he's how old is he now?
I think he's 106.
106. Okay, but he keeps on trucking.
He does.
And
He
you're like a dog with a bone. You don't give up.
Well, it's funny. There's a lady who is in New South Wales, Australia, and that is her name on Twitter, Dog with a Bone.
Oh,
Or
really?
Dog and Bone is what it's called. And Narelle has been just amazing, helping, find this information and put it together and synthesize it. And really, it's taken an army of people. So what's, in this process, people see me, I'm kind of like the voice and that kind of thing, because other people that are out there, maybe they've got jobs where they can't say things. I own my own company. I'm not going to fire me. This is truly a team effort. There are so many people that are helping contribute to this, and some want to remain anonymous. Other folks, are okay if we share their names and identities and that kind of thing. But it's all about getting the truth out there.
Correct. And I did a long post about that just yesterday, I believe, as far as why I started a podcast. I never wanted to have my public name or face out there. But
Right.
after seeing Charlie Kirk, witnessing him assassinated, I mean, I wasn't there, but I was watching it
Yep.
as it happened. And then what transpired afterwards, up until today, it just got worse.
Yeah. There
It's
comes a
like
point where you got to stand up and say something.
right. I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. I'm not comfortable, I'm pretty humble. I'm not comfortable on touting my accolades, which I'm just an average person, but still.
Right.
So more people, and I want to make a lasting point here before we go that you made more than once. In order to change the direction of this country, number one, we have to have free and fair elections. And in order to have that happen, we need to have more people, boots on the ground, participating in their local precincts, volunteering to be what poll watcher.
No. Don't be a poll watcher.
No,
Go be a poll employee. Go
Poll.
get paid for your time. If you're a poll watcher, you might get thrown out. They might push you in the back of the room or something like that. But if you are a poll worker, you get unfettered access to everything. You get a chance to really keep eyeballs on things.
So how do people become a poll worker?
All you have to do is contact your county election board and tell them that you're interested in putting your name in the hat to become a poll worker. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to call you back and go, "You're hired." And so
Good.
you'll get paid for your time. You'll get to see the entire process from beginning to end. They'll send you to training. You'll get paid for training. It's a wonderful way to serve your country, serve your community, and help make our elections better.
Right. Like my father used to say, I mean, it's your duty as a citizen to go vote and extend it even further. Go help to ensure that our voting elections are fair, free and fair. The
Yeah.
other thing I wanted to bring up, I see this all the time. You see people complaining all over, everywhere, that the GOP is not helping us. They're not helping us. But when you get down to the brass knuckles, we don't have people like me or you. I'm not saying you, but just general people who are complaining. They're not precinct managers, or they're not getting involved with their local GOP. They just sit there and complain. So do you have any recommendations for people out here that are
Please get involved in your county GOP. You don't have to do a ton, but I mean, get in there, have your voice heard so that you can participate in the process. You want to be sure that you're voting in all your precinct issues, that you're going to your state convention. I know it's a pain, to do these things, but it's part of the process. And if you don't do it, the bad guys will. And by the bad guys, what I'm talking about is other Republicans who simply value title, position, and power. They will go in there and they will take your spot, and they will find other people that value title, position, and power over truth and justice. And so we need more truth and justice people, in there participating. And you don't have to know everything. Go in, participate. If you don't understand something, put your hand up, stop the meeting for a second and go, "Mr. Chairman, I don't understand this part of the process. Can you help me understand it? Talk to me, like I'm in 5th grade, so I can understand what's going on."
right? So I want to thank you, David, for coming on board. You're welcome anytime.
Thank
If
you.
there's breaking news, hit me up. You got my contact information multiple ways. My dog's whining. I apologize. She needs to eat, and she's on a schedule anyway, and it's past her mealtime.
Yeah.
So hit me up if something breaking happens. Please, text me, email, whatever. I'd be happy to get you on the show.
February is going to be a big month, so stay tuned. There's going to be some good things happening with Fulton County then.
You want to give a little bit of background on what might happen?
So there are some cases that I filed in 2022, 2023, 2024 that have never seen the light of day. They're going to see the light of day, and they're going to be, some of them are going to be discussed in February. I imagine some more will be in March. But Fulton County got roasted in December, They got a little warm up today, and I think they're going to get roasted again next month. So a lot of
Okay.
cases are going to be coming up.
Best way to get me is text me.
Gotcha.
I mean, email me too, but
Right.
I always have my phone on my hip.
Got it.
So
Okay.
God bless you. Thank you for coming on board. It's
You're welcome.
really an honor to meet you. I mean, I've been following your work for years.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. You have a great evening. Enjoy your family.
You too. Thank you.
God bless America.
Bye.
Bye.
History shows that it is precisely when totalitarian regimes begin to decay from within, it is precisely when they feel the first real stirrings of domestic unrest,